Hey, welcome back to Fanatical Leica, where you are guaranteed to have more fun than I am. So today I'm going to talk about the 4 different camera systems that I shoot with, namely the Leica Q3, the Leica M11P, the Leica SL3, and then the Hasselblad X2d 100C. After I go through some of the details on each of these cameras, I'll talk about why I'm even making this video and what the comparisons are really about. Okay, first off, the Leica Q3. There we go. This is the one that I spent the least amount of time with, so I know the least about, but I already have some fairly strong opinions about it, mostly positive. Look, it's small, smaller than an M11, smaller than an SL3 by a lot. It's light, significantly lighter, doesn't feel like carrying a big rig around. The lens is incredibly sharp and very fast, so it's great in daylight and low light. The macro mode on the lens, this sort of dual focus range, makes for shooting macro shots and close-ups, extreme close-ups of things on the fly, just incredibly easy and really fun. And I find I'm doing that more because it's right there. I don't have to switch lenses or put on close-up filters or anything like that. And it's opened up another world of just possibilities for me. The 28mm focal length is ideal for a lot of things, street scenes, environmental portraits, landscapes. Plus the incredibly high-res sensor means I can frame things with a tighter cropping in mind, and I have plenty of resolution to punch in, so I don't have to worry as much about, is it too wide or am I close enough? I feel a lot more free shooting with it, knowing that that sensor has so much resolution to work with. Most of all, it's just the most fun camera that I have, and that makes me want to pick it up and go out and shoot with it literally every morning. And whenever I get a chance to take a walk anywhere, I want to grab it and take it with me. It also makes me look forward to spending time, if it's a client job and I'm going to use it, I look forward to that time with the camera. It's very reliable. It's very easy to operate. I have all my settings dialed in, but it really didn't require more than a very brief look at the manual to find where everything important was. So I was up and running with it very quickly, and it's the menus are organized very well, and it's just a really pleasant shooting experience. I'd say it's a great travel companion because of the size, and if you have a small bag like an Oberwerth Q bag or a small Billingham, you can fit this plus a flash or some other accessories in it and not have a heavy pack on you. As for the video, I know that it's not the fastest sensor for video, that you can get rolling shutter and high-speed things. I wouldn't really consider using it for that kind of thing, but I could easily shoot talking heads, locked off type shots, or just slower moving things, scenery, B-roll, etc. with it with no problem. I mean, the quality is very good, and I would certainly use it alongside the SL3 as a 2-camera video system if I was traveling and that's all I had with me. I'd say it does pretty good double duty as a video photo hybrid. I know people don't think of it in that category, but since I'm predominantly using it for photography, but I want to get some B-roll when I'm somewhere interesting, or I need to shoot a sort of an impromptu interview with someone and I can't build out a big rig, it could be great for that. So that's the Q3 in a nutshell. Wonderful camera, and I'm still probably in a honeymoon period with it, but I think that's going to go on for quite some time. So next up is the M11P. Let's see if we can focus on that. This is currently with a Voigtlander 15mm f4.5 super wide lens, and if you're interested, this is an Oberwerth half case with a removable back cover. You can see my fingerprints on the screen there, but that keeps the back mostly protected from zippers and buttons and things like that I might be wearing. And then this is a strap in a sort of similar matching olive green color. Will you focus on that? No, okay. From Wotan Craft in Taiwan. which I love. And there's lots to say about this camera. I'd say it's my constant companion, only recently being challenged by the Q3. It's incredibly versatile, being able to shoot Leica lenses from the 1950s up to the most current M lenses. So that gives you a lot to choose from, and you don't necessarily have to be shelling out the cash for the latest, Apo Summicron. You can get away with an f2.8 Elmerit from the 1970s. Rangefinder shooting is fun and fast. Obviously there's no screen blackout when you fire the shutter, and it's always as bright as your scene is. The live view makes shooting with wider lenses than the frame lines offer you much more practical and easy. And if you add to that the VisiFlex 2 electronic viewfinder, which just clips on to the hot shoe, you get a electronic viewfinder that's very high res, not as high res as the built-in EVF on either the Q3 or the SL3, but it's very nice and allows you to see through the lens with as wide a lens as you're shooting with. So when I use the 15mm f4.5 super wide, I'll often pair that with the VisiFlex. So if you're going to shoot with something really wide like the 15mm Voigtlander, the VisiFlex is a worthy addition and makes shooting with that just as easy as shooting with a typical mirrorless camera. Now if you put a collapsible lens on it, like I have a 50mm f2.8 Elmerit M, no, sorry, that's an Elmar M. With that collapsed, it makes the camera what you would call pocketable. I don't actually put it in a pocket, but it's easy to wear it under a jacket on a camera strap. So if you're going to be in and out of rain or inclement weather, or just don't want to be seen with a camera on, it's very easy to do that and have it out in front of you in no time. And again, that just encourages me to take it places and out in types of weather that I maybe otherwise wouldn't, because I know it's going to be discreet and well protected. So as with the Q3 and the SL3, this also has the very high-res 60 megapixel sensor, which affords me much more ability to crop than I might otherwise have. That means I can put on, say, just a 35mm or 50mm lens for the day, go out the door, and know I'd be covered for just about anything, whether it's some landscapes or actual portraits or whatever you're shooting, having some ability to crop and not need to carry a full complement of lenses. That said, the lenses are all, for the M system, quite small. So in a small Bellingham bag, I can carry the M11, 2 other lenses in pouches, plus the VisiFlex viewfinder, and that's still a very light bag with room for a phone and maybe a USB power block, etc. Now obviously this is a manual focus camera and intended to be so, and that's part of the fun of shooting with it. So it's its own experience shooting with the M versus shooting with, say, the Q3 or the SL3 or even the Hasselblad. The M11 does work with the ProPhoto remote for Leica. However, it does not give you high-speed sync. If you want that, you have to shoot with the SL3. I believe the SL2S or SL2 would do that as well, but there's some limitations to flash sync that are different on the M11 versus those cameras. So third up is the SL3, which I have here. I apologize if this doesn't get in focus. I've switched to shooting the video for this section on the Q3, which I haven't done before, but hence the wider angle, and it may have slightly different colors than the rest of this. There's a lot to say about the SL3. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. It's essentially all that I would want from a full-size mirrorless camera. Excellent ergonomics, a wide range of lenses, great photo abilities, pretty good video abilities, at least for what I shoot on the video side. It's plenty. With the M adapters, I can put on my whole suite of Leica M lenses. I also have an R adapter for a couple Leica R lenses. The M adapter that I use in particular has a close focusing helicoid, which extends the focus range of some of those lenses that have a 1 meter or even 0.8 meter minimum focus, allowing you to get closer or turn some wide angle lenses into pretty serious macro lenses, for tabletop stuff or macro photography, whatever. But it's a really useful. The one I use in particular is this brand that I can't pronounce. It's Haoge, Haoge, or however you say it. But this was purchased on Amazon for a very, it was very inexpensive. I know Light Lens Lab has a nicer, more machined brass one that does essentially the same thing, and that might be an option for you as well. I'll talk really quickly about the lenses that I shoot now, having gone over both the the M11 and now onto the SL3. But in order of ascending focal length, there's the 15mm f4.5 Voigtlander, 21mm f3.4 Super Elmar, 24mm f2.8 Elmarit M, a spherical, 35 f2 Light Lens Lab 8 element. I have a couple 50mm lenses. I have a 2.8 collapsible Elmar. It's a later one. It's the Elmar M, and then a 51.4 Summilux. That's the fastest lens I own, and I'll often adapt that onto the SL3 as well because it's just a gorgeous lens for really shallow depth of field. The lens that I bought with my previous SL2 is this 50 f2 Summicron SL, not the Apo version, but this is a fantastic lens. Focus is very close, the autofocus is very quick, and I just absolutely love the images that come out of it. I would be happy shooting with just that lens on this camera for 99% of the time. I also have two smaller telephoto lenses, both a 75 and a 90mm f2.5 Summarit. Those are, I covered one of them in a previous video, but those are M lenses that came out with the launch of the M8. They're aluminum construction as opposed to brass, so they're pretty lightweight. They have a short focus throw. They're very compact, and I think they're great. The images I've gotten out of them have been, very sharp and very pleasing, great contrast. So I recommend those because they're kind of like a bargain, if there is such a thing. I also shoot a 28-105 f2.8 Sigma DGDN art lens on the SL3, which covers pretty much everything else that I would do that the 50 doesn't do. So that's a phenomenal lens too. That's a recent acquisition, but yeah, incredibly sharp, really well built. Feels like it suits the SL3 well, and just turns it into a super versatile camera. I mean, the SL3 is a big, heavy-ish camera, especially with a grip and case on it. So it's not my go-to for a walk-around camera. However, fantastic to take hiking, any time you're going to go out with a larger camera bag or something, and especially with a telephoto lens on it, it's a hefty thing. It feels more like carrying, I don't know, my old Sony system, which was like an A7R4 with a 70-200 lens, etc. Last lens I want to mention is a Leica 135 f2.8 Elmarit R, from the R series, and there are very inexpensive adapters to convert those to the SL mount, and that's a phenomenal lens and can be had very inexpensively on eBay. I found one in near mint condition, which I purchased from Japan for I want to say about $500, and that lens is phenomenal for portraits and could be useful for all kinds of things. So don't sleep on those R lenses. As for the video features on the SL3, I'm not an expert on this, but it's very pleasing from my testing so far. I'm not doing sports video or anything other than pretty much talking heads and some product B-roll, etc. But the colors and the dynamic range shooting an L-log have been very good, and the footage is easy to work with. It's not an A7S III, which I had for a time, which was a phenomenal video camera to shoot with and had virtually no rolling shutter. And I understand that's not the case with this, but I shoot this camera predominantly for stills. I'd say 90% of the time I'm using it for stills, and so I think of it as a still camera that has some really good video features when I need it. Okay, last but certainly not least, we have the Hasselblad X2d 100C. I don't know what I'm showing you. I'm showing you the case and some grubby fingerprints on here. And currently mounted on it is the XCD 90V f2.5 lens, which even with a hood mounted on it is very comfortable to shoot with one hand. The Hasselblad is the first of these systems that I purchased after I was previously shooting with a Fujifilm GFX50. I wasn't sold on a few things about that camera: the ergonomics, the general shooting experience, and the colors, the dynamic range. It just wasn't what I had hoped it would be. I may have had unrealistic expectations for it, but I made the maybe mistake of trying out the X2d at Sammy's camera in Pasadena, California one day. Shot a couple test images in the store. After looking at those on the computer, I was more or less immediately sold. The dynamic range is truly stunning, as are the colors. Gradations of white and midtones, highlight detail, things that I didn't think I could really capture without a lot of difficult masking and manipulation just seemed to come out of the camera. And it's made shooting really high contrast scenes or high key photography much, much easier. And I can't say enough good things about the image quality of it. So this is the XCD 90V f2.5 lens. Has a manual focus clutch, which is a very nice feature. I'd say the 90 is the best portrait lens I've ever shot with, period. Everyone seems to love the images that come out of it. The bokeh, the fall off, the way the depth of field, the in focus to out of focus image transitions, and the nice compression you get from that focal length. It just delivers every time, and it's incredibly sharp. It's fast enough that I can really defocus a background if I want to, but stop down. I can make it do whatever it needs to do, and it continually delivers. So I own two other lenses for the Hasselblad system: the 55mm. Let's see if we can look at that. Come on, focus on this, please. There we go. So this is the 55mm f2.5, and without the hood on, you can see it's really small. It's probably the most versatile lens. I use that a lot in the studio for full-length portraits or just wider things where I don't want it to look like a wide-angle lens, and it's a really ideal focal length. I think it translates into roughly around 40mm in 35mm terms. It has very minimal distortion, so if I'm shooting something with architectural details or portraits, I'm just not getting any exaggerated features that I have to worry about later. And again, the colors and the tonality really match the 90mm, so those two lenses together would probably cover just about anything I might do. It's a great walk-around lens. Again, it's not very large or very heavy. It doesn't make the camera feel front heavy. I can happily carry the Hasselblad just on a wrist strap with that lens and walk around all day, and I've done that a lot. The last lens in the trio is the 28mm P series for portable, which you can see if I take the hood off. It's a very small lens. It actually has a very small front element if we look at that compared to the others. This is an amazing lens. It's, I think, the least expensive in the lineup. It's incredibly wide. I think it translates to roughly 20 to 21mm in full frame terms. So you can shoot some really wild, exaggerated perspective with it. A neat thing that I found is putting the X2d in the X-Pan crop mode, which is a very wide crop with this lens for shooting landscapes or just anywhere where you want a sort of wide perspective to your final image. That's really fun, and I've been doing that a lot. And you can always uncrop that later. The full image is there, but it comes into Lightroom cropped, and you can frame it up that way in camera. The menu system, the ergonomics of the camera are phenomenal. The battery life is actually incredible. I just have 2 batteries, and only once or twice when I've been shooting in a studio setting have I run the battery down and had to change it in less than several hours. The power save mode is very good, so if I'm walking around, I can take a shot and then just tap once on the power button and it goes into power save mode, but it wakes up very quickly, so I could do that pretty much all day and get a lot of life out of it. So all this begs the question, why choose one camera over another of these? Why have all of them? The short answer is that I'm a crazy person. I have a real Leica problem. That being said, they do have different strengths, which I hope the explanation's made obvious, but the Hasselblad, the strength to me is really as a studio camera and as a portrait machine, and where you need really subtle gradation in your highlights and shadow detail. I don't think the Leicas really compete with it in that arena. The M11 is an inspirational tool and very portable and very flexible with the different viewfinder options and all the different lens choices. The Q3 is super fun, also quite versatile, and has autofocus, which the M11 obviously does not. The SL3 is a workhorse, I think a pretty powerful video creation tool, and also has a wide selection of lenses that can be adapted to it, including all the L-mount lenses from the likes of Sigma and Panasonic and Leica. I'll just show you a little bit of B-roll here. Each of the cameras side by side, so you can see the relative sizes and shapes, as well as the bags that I carry them in, to get a sense of what a kit might be like. Let me know if you want more info on any one of these cameras. It's a bit overwhelming to try to do a deep dive on each of them and use cases, etc. But I hope some of this was interesting, and I'm all talked out, so I'll see you later. That light turning off, that's the indication it's time to go.